FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
Well, let's now fast forward to your, 25 years old. You've already won some major races by then. And suddenly, one day, you start choking up blood. You go to the doctor, and tell us what happened after that.
Actually, I actually called a doctor friend of mine who was a neighbor, and I had been coughing up blood for about 5 minutes, and so I was alarmed by that and called him, and he came down, and unfortunately I had washed out the sink. But he looked at my throat and looked at my nose and thought since I had allergies, perhaps I had cracked sinuses, blood was trickling down the back of my throat, coughed it up, and I sent him on his way, and I said, great, thanks for coming down. So I ignored that. But the real issue was obviously the fact that I was diagnosed with testicular cancer, a sensitive health issue for a young man in the state of Texas. It's not the first thing. Hey, guys, guess what? Check this out. I mean, it wasn't that way, so so I was a little hesitant to discuss that, but the other symptoms came along that forced me to.
And so what happened? Surgery and then chemotherapy and a pretty long session, huh?
The initial surgery to remove the infected testicle, and then months of chemotherapy, and then another surgery to remove 2 lesions on the brain because it had spread all over the place.
You know, Hamilton Jordan, who was Jimmy Carter's, and a great guy. Anybody who's had cancer, and that includes me, knows about Ham Jordan because I don't know how he finds out, but he always calls. It says, here's what you need to do. And he called me when I had bladder cancer, and he said, the first thing you must do is take charge of your own disease. Yep. Nobody cares more about it than you do. No one will know more about it. You be in charge. Do the research, ask the questions, and so on. What did you do? And I think you probably did that, didn't you?
You know, I'm so glad you asked that question because this was in 1996, and I mean, this is an idea festival, so this will go to show you how ideas have evolved in the last 10 years, and of course, one of the greatest ideas being the internet. In 1996, I had a one of the early AOL accounts. There was no real ability to go online. There certainly wasn't a Google. You couldn't go in and type in cancer or testicular cancer or bladder cancer or prostate cancer or anything. So you were basically left to going down to the bookstore, picking up flyers or pamphlets at the doctor's office, or just asking around for advice, friends and family. Hey, you know anybody that's had cancer? Of course, I thought cancer was cancer and it's all the same, and of course it's not. But so much has happened in 10 years, and it's so much easier now to actually take charge. I mean, to ask hard questions. If you want to consider second or third opinions, it's so much easier to go online, learn about your disease, and really overnight become a student of oncology. And back then, it was hard. But fortunately today, with again outlets like a Google or a WebMD or other medical sites, you can really dive in pretty quickly.
Because they thought you were not going to live for a year, didn't they? Some of the doctors, when they first diagnosed this.
They thought it was a tough case, 50-50, coin flip. I don't want to do it again.
Yeah. How did you feel?
I made one coin flip.
How
Okay,
did you
so far.
feel though? Because I think it's so important for people these days who find out that they have cancer to understand that this is no longer the death penalty automatically when you're told you have cancer. Because every day and every way they find new and better ways to treat these diseases. And we all know, and every expert who has anything to do with cancer will tell you that if you put enough money into the research, eventually they will find a cure for cancer.
Right.
But what I thought was so interesting in your case is you didn't just take this as the death penalty. You grabbed hold of it, you decided to fight it, you basically did just what you did with a bicycle.
Well, I looked at it as if it was a race or as if it was a competition. So it was me versus him or her or it being the disease. And so I absolutely hated him or her or it. And when the blood work came back or the tumor markers came back that I was getting better, I felt like, well, I'm winning. You know, scoreboard says I'm winning. When the chest X-rays would come back and I would see the tumors in the lungs starting to shrink, I'm starting to win. So I took it. I really viewed it as a fight. And I think also the reverse happened too when I was put back into the sport. I viewed my sport as a win or lose deal. I mean, there was when you're diagnosed with cancer, winning and losing is living and dying. Mm-hmm. And so the biggest fear there is dying, which is losing. So my biggest fear when I came back to race was losing.
You also, and I thought this was a very unusual thing, you began talking while you were being treated with chemo about putting together some kind of a foundation or something. Tell us about that and how you did that and why you did that.
Well, we started the Lance Armstrong Foundation, over a little foretop at a Mexican restaurant in Austin, Texas, during the chemotherapy. And at the time we thought, okay, you have a small population of young men that get this disease, 7,500 cases a year. We can do something to help them. In the state of Texas at the time, they had just removed, just to give you an example, they had just removed the diagrams or the illustrations of a testicular self-exam out of the public high school's textbooks. So I remember thinking, well, of course they have all the other illustrations in there. I remember thinking, well, this isn't right. Let's just get that back in there and we can say we did a good job. But then it just grew and it evolved, and we expanded to other urological cancers, and it expanded more into survivorship, and now into advocacy and other things. And it's been 10 years. We've raised over $200 million, and wow. It's been something. It's been. I remember when we got our first $1,000 check. I thought, and we ran around the office for about an hour. It was the greatest day. And then we can get into the story of the yellow band, but the yellow band is what?
We'll talk a little bit about that, the yellow band.
Well, of the 200 million, 65 million of those dollars was the yellow band. And I'll just tell you a brief history of the yellow band. We were approached by Nike back in 2004 for the idea to take a little rubber bracelet, make it yellow, put Livestrong on it. They would give us $1 million donation to start, and also give us 5 million yellow wristbands that we could sell for $1. 5 million of them. And I'm thinking, first of all, I don't really want to wear this thing because I was a little superstitious. They wanted me to wear it at the tour. I'm like, I'm not wearing it until I'm in the yellow jersey. They said, no, you have to wear it. So we started wearing it actually earlier in the year. And the tour happened. That was the year that I broke the record. The Olympic Games happened right after that, which Nike was so great to give the band to athletes from all over the world, all different cultures and religions, and in a really tense time politically and religiously around the world. You saw a lot of really powerful Muslim athletes wearing the yellow band. And after that, we went through 5 million, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Now we're north of 65 million yellow wristbands. And so it wasn't such a bad idea after all.